so that it will be clear, we know where the character is coming from, where the character is going.
You said the story must
have a goal.
The story must have a goal.
But what if you want to tell a story and portray the protagonist as a person who doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know what
doesn't even have a goal?
Yes. In fact, it appears to me that my country, Nigeria, doesn't know
where it's going.
Doesn't have a goal.
We don't have a goal.
What if I want to portray Nigeria in a story? I can write a story of an entity without a goal and justify it. So there is no rule that is carved in stone. There's no rule that is carved in stone. But for you, the obstacle in storytelling, maybe you are a guru in their country. I would have preferred water.
Is water? Is it not water?
Yes,
there's no more water. So you take my own. Drink out of my own. No, it is not. Don't worry. If we drink this one later. It's entering my video.
So, like I said,
yes.
If you have to write a story that calls for a character that has no goal, please do by all means. But justify it. Let the context justify it. That this person has no goal in life. And for me, if I create that kind of character, I would have what they call an impact character. Either a wife or a friend who has a goal. Pursue the goal and achieve his goal.
I would have what?
Whereas this main character is just meandering through life. And everybody knows that maybe Ghana is making a headway. They know where they are going and Nigeria is not.
And there will be hints as to why he has.
Yes, why he has failed. You understand? So there is nothing, there is no rule, there is nothing that's carved in stone. But you must know what you are doing. You must know that yes, a protagonist got to have a goal before you can break that rule. But if you do it out of ignorance, in fact, it's going to show. Everybody will know. Like they said, the movie screen or TV screen is too small for anybody to hide.
To hide.
You cannot hide in it. It shows. So
have you watched, this is an aside, please. Have you watched Saru? Is it Saru? No, there's a character in the film called Saru. What's the name? What's the name of the film? Anikulapo. Have you watched Anikulapo? You didn't watch. So we will not be able to discuss it as a talking point for this lecture. It's my considered opinion. On paper, Anikulapo is a high concept story. Somebody who got the power to wake the dead and a second chance to live again. But in my opinion, the execution, Saru came, he didn't have a purpose. He had no purpose. Saru had no purpose.
Are you sure?
Yes. And as you said, there's no character beside him, you know, who had a purpose.
Are you sure it was not deliberate?
That's what I'm saying. Saru came to, is it Ile-Ife? He said it's Oyo Ile, that is a weaver, I want to start his business. Yeah. By the time he started his business, that story was supposed to have ended.
Okay, fine. Is it based on a true life story?
I don't know.
Based on a tradition?
Maybe.
But then, also remember that.
Yes.
Okay, he came to Oyo with the purpose of establishing
his business. Exactly.
He was a stranger there.
Yes.
Knew nobody.
Yes.
Nobody knew him.
Yes.
Now, like you said,
yes,
the story of establishing his business should have ended
the whole film. However, when he started
you must also remember
yes,
that for him to have established his business was now dependent on a woman he met there, who took an interest in him. So from there, that galvanized a new direction for a story which, when he was coming, there was no indication.
A romance story, sub-story.
Yeah, you see?
Did the romance sub-story become the main storyline?
He didn't.
What happened with the romance story was that the romance story, you know, exposed him as a desirable person amongst the whole community.
Desirable to whom?
The women. In which case,
that's the problem.
In which case, he now caught the attention and fancy of a number of women And from there, different things began to happen.
You see, now this is a man that has power to wake the dead.
Meanwhile, this
and wait, let me finish. Oh,
fantasy story.
Yeah, he had power to wake the dead, and the only thing he's interested in is to knock. That's all. He had no purpose for the power. Nothing.
Is it up on Netflix?
It must be there.
I remember that power to wake the dead had nothing to do with him. It was the fact that he himself was supposed to have died.
Exactly. A strange bird. And they beat a bird, and the bird dropped a god.
And the girl he was trying to escape with, to elope with, you know, is the person who actually was able to drive the bird away and snatch.
That's God.
God. In which case, she is the one who would have had the power.
No, that's the story. It's not even a Nigerian story. It's not a Nigerian story.
But then she now gave.
If you see how they,
Nigerian story.
If you see how they treated it,
she now gave the power. She now gave the God to him, and that's how he became.
It became popular.
I saw it somewhere. I read it somewhere.
Yeah. And that was all. It's a legal.
I read it about 7 years
ago. So he has power to wake the dead, and his women is pursuing.
The whole purpose of that power now for him is to use it and be collecting things for himself.
It's jumping. The story is the viewpoint. They call it viewpoint. The viewpoint now is jumping. Now the women now that's another problem we have in storytelling. It's what they call viewpoint. But this one has to do with when you come to storytelling, not story. I was trying to explain the difference between story. Come to storytelling. When you come to storytelling, whether for TV, for film, for the novel, there's what they call viewpoint. Through whose eyes are we seeing this story? From whose point of view? Once you have chosen a character, you must struggle to maintain that viewpoint. If that character is not in that story, in that scene, nothing should happen.
Because the one driving the story.
Yes, because we are watching now. But if you establish what they call a third person's viewpoint, where you can see the story from A, B, C viewpoints, you must establish it early enough in the story that it is a multiple viewpoints. And you must not jump on everybody, so you must establish the first 3 or so persons you are using. So you don't go to everybody's house. Watch our ghost stories. That's why you can see maybe the very first 30, 40 scenes, you still see the main character in all those scenes. That is the viewpoint. If it's a love story, which usually have two viewpoints, the hero and the heroine, now you can interchange. Then you can have a third person. But there are stories, especially in novels, there are stories with just one viewpoint. If that character, the main character is not in that scene, the story doesn't go in there. Because why should we see? It means the story is saying I. Once upon a time, I went to some country. And in that country, I experienced this, I experienced that, so something happened to me. No, he is the one telling the story. It is not like saying, once upon a time, John. That's the second viewpoint. Second person's viewpoint. John or third person. John went to, because I'm telling it to you about John, third person.
Third person.
John went to so place. John, it means I'm telling the story.
Myself.
Yes. About John. So, whether John is there or not, I can continue with my story because I am the one
telling the story.
But if John is telling, that's the argument I had in church one day. I said, Moses did not write the first 5 books of the Old Testament because the story says, Moses went to the mountain. Moses did this. Moses did that. And he did that. And he did that. In fact, he even told us when Moses died and where he was buried. How could Moses have been the one to write the book? Moses would have said, I did this. I went to the mountain, I spoke with God.
My pastor will say, God inspired you.
No. God will not inspire you to write about your dead and where you were buried.
No. When I asked that question, you say God inspired you.
No, but
because they don't know.
Inspiration.
Your pastor won't have the same argument with the books of Matthew, Mark, and John. Because all 4 are about Jesus Christ.
Yes.
But Jesus didn't write it about himself.
You know.
It is the documentation of the account.
Of the account. Yes. In fact, some of them did not even see Jesus. It was oral tradition. People told
the story.
What they were told.
What they heard.
Some of them what they were told.
Like
Paul.
Paul wrote,
8 of the...
He wrote it.
8
He wrote it. No.
Yeah, but you not see Jesus. Okay, so...
He saw Jesus in a trance.
That's what he told.
Why are you persecuting me? Me, I know my Bible. Oh.
Okay, so let's go.
Apostle indeed.
Okay, so we come to screenplay writing. This is a course that can last 10 years or more. I started living with screenplay in my second year in university. Mid-80s. I still am a learner. I learned something new yesterday.
Where is the water?
I'm presently writing a movie for somebody. And I got stuck somewhere. And I was trying to get out of it. Start coming. So I decided to check something out on YouTube. And I stumbled on something new. And it happens to me nearly every day. We learn new things. Don't get stuck. Don't stagnate in one place. What I am going to say to you now is just, I don't know, I can't even say a tip of the iceberg because it's not even up to a tip of the iceberg.
You have to keep reading.
Just to give you an idea of what this is all about, what we are doing. But one thing I can assure you is that what I'm going to tell you now, that many gurus, some of the things I'm going to tell you now, many gurus in Nollywood do not know. Not interested.
Yes.
It's like what I've just told you about story. Without trying to, if you are close to a director, sometimes have a friendly conversation. Try to assess his knowledge of the few things I just told you about story. Some will be blank. For a very long time, I had no job in Nollywood. Because whenever they invited me to a script conference and they started story, and I would listen, and I would now say, okay, fine, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? I beg, is that story? Do you know what?
As I made them break glass.
The Duro sent me out of a script conference and changed the venue so I would not come the following day because I was imposed on him from NTA. Send me out. I would not know what I was talking about. I was very embarrassed because he had assembled some of the biggest names in television. You know, Kamu Yaro, what was his name? You know, came from Kaduna or was it Jaws, all over the country, the selected people. Peter Igo said I should go to represent NCA. So I went. And we started, after the narrated the story, I said, okay, fine. They wanted to break down, like what I want to show you now. I said, okay, fine. Are we using the 3-act structure? Are we saying, we saying 3 act? Did you read theater act? I said, he said, hey, you think you are doing a stage play? Why are you talking about acts here?
Hey!
Took me up. Because, not just because he felt I did not know what I was doing, because I was asked to come and represent NTA. He needed every excuse to send me away. So he found one, that the man you sent is ignorant about television, about screenplay. He's a stage person.
Because you mentioned 3-act structure.
Of the industry at that time said you were not good, you were not good. Many people will not touch you. And many people did not touch me for a long time. Very few persons believed in me. Very few. And we were very few who knew those things happened. And the unfortunate thing was that some of my classmates, few of them who have died, were in the industry, doing well. But they didn't see anything different, so you know, they went on. Not because they did not know, some of them did not know. But I knew what I knew because I was fortunate to meet a man. I was doing my national service in Kano. My national service in Kano. So I was serving at Triumph newspaper. But I took to television the moment I landed in Kano and they loved me so much. I was writing for them. And I met a man who came from BBC. I think I've told this story.
Yes.
Yeah. So one day I went to the newsstand to buy newspaper. I saw books, TV books, fantastic TV books. I opened them. It's the same name. I opened them, same name. I said, Abba, somebody broke into this man's house. They stole these books. Nobody, but I saw the name, you know, signed British Broadcasting Corporation, Bush House. I said, the owner of this book cannot sell this book. I told the vendor, look, where did you get these books? They stole these books. He said, no, it's the man, the owner. I want man like that, be like that, I go country. I said, no. The honor of this, and they were very cheap. So I bought all of them. So the following day, the man, when I went to the newsstand, said, the man don't come again, you don't bring some more. I said, no, somebody has broken. Somebody has. I want to meet the person. How can he said, okay, I will give you an appointment. I will tell your brother where the same paper. You need to tell him. So one Saturday morning, they sent for me. I went there and I met this. The moment he opened his mouth and said to me, good morning, I knew I was standing in the presence of a holy man. So to speak. British accent. I said, I bought this. He said, yeah, they told me that you like this. I said, okay, what did you do? I said, I'm a theater person that I work with the newspaper and that story right now. He said, oh, really? He told me a story. How they lured him, how NTA lured him from BBC to Nigeria and frustrated him. So he had no money, he was selling his things to survive. He left the NTA. He was going through very difficult times. And it broke my heart. Because for a man who knew the value of those books, to sell them, books, to survive in Kano, that nobody would give you a good price. Kano. You understand? So he gave them to a vendor. Anybody who would find value, and the books will be there, if not for somebody like me who will just charge. Who did it? It was God that charted my path. Otherwise, I would not be standing here and talking stories with you. I probably would have taken off. Yeah, I haven't really made the kind of money I would have made if I had taken off somewhere else. But I'm happy doing what I'm doing. So that man, we became friends. I practically was living with him, sharing my salary with him, and he was sharing his knowledge with me. So one day, he said he was traveling, he was from Benue, he was traveling home to see his original family, but he gave me an assignment.
So he was in Nigeria?
In Nigeria, yes. So, only for somebody to come to the office and ask me whether I knew a man like that, said yes, said he had died in an accident.
Jesus.
So, my world was shattered. But for the 1 year and 6 months I was with this man, I unlearned so many things I was taught in the university. I had to let go of so many things. We had just one camera in the department. We were doing film. I majored in film production.
In the university?
Yes. Now, sorry, which university? Calabar. You know, Calabar is theater and media.
Okay.
So, you know, script writing was what very many people were not taking seriously back then. We don't go into acting. And those who were writing for the stage. And I started writing for the stage. So my early scripts were like stage plays. So he asked me to read he asked I should read my script. So I showed my script. He made them laugh. I know the play that won Telefest in those days. He said, you wanted to see the Telefest play. I showed it to P now. I said, this one I won the prize. You allowed me to laugh. So he put me through. One night, he changed my mind about story. He said to me, story is not about entertainment. Entertainment is sugar coating. Story must have a straight line of want. And that want must change the person that is the character that I pursue. If that want doesn't change that character, he should die at the end. From what we have discussed, you see why? You know why? Either he dies physically or metaphorically. Yes. Or a fate worse than death. These are the things in story. A person could die because he has refused to change his attitude to life, his belief, his worldview. You know, everybody hates me. People don't like me. Nobody likes. It could be you that you don't like people, not the world that hates you. And because you believe people hate you, you know, you do silly things, and it brings your downfall. That could be a metaphorical. That could be a metaphorical death, or it could be a physical death, or it could be a death worse than death. They call it damnation. In one of my stories, it illustrates damnation. In one of my stories, the recent story I'm doing, a certain young woman, you know, comes from the village, an orphan, like we were talking about, You know, the father disowns her because it was a mate of the family that he slept with, you know, and put in the family and she gave birth to this girl. So, as far as it's concerned, it's a noble family, an aristocratic family. It's a child of a maid. And they have paid the woman to get rid of the pregnancy, and the woman refused. And gave birth to this child. And he doesn't want anything to do with this child. Though this child is from this great family, she's a shoemaker, Sushana. And she uses the logo of the family, they call it a crest. Most families, like the people have what they call houses, you know. So the royalty have this thing, you know. So she uses the logo of the family, even in this small shoe shop, and it embarrasses. And she answers the name of the family. And the father is the chairman of the local government. So the father gets the municipal council to pull down the shop. Call up to the police station. It's either you leave town, take this money, leave town, go to wherever, or I will deal with it. The girl refuses the money, but she leaves town. Dumps the shoe shining thing and takes to her music. But she is a very shy person. She can't face the party because of this her family upbringing. You see psychology? Though she is a musician, she wants to be a musician, but she can't face. If she stops in front, if she steps in front of strangers, she will freeze up. She can't talk. But alone or in the church, she is fantastic. Wonderful voice, wonderful songwriter. Now you see how the trauma, how the family thing affects her psychologically and affects her career, affects her prospect in life. She hides from romantic relationship, from everything. She shuns. But she wants to be a musician. That's conflict, isn't it? Yes. Yeah.
That's her goal.
That's internal conflict. She has internal conflict and she has external conflict too. So she meets this old timer of a producer. This man was a legend in his time, a great saxophonist and so on, but he sleeps with his proteges, most of them women, rapes them and all of them, has this bad reputation, and he too is trying to change, trying to come back. Because most of his proteges who have made it in life have forgotten about him because of his
bad character.
Because of his flaw, his need, his weakness.
His flaw.
Yeah. Please don't forget that. So, this girl comes to Lagos. The friend she wanted to stay with, she did not know had relocated abroad, you know. So she's stranded. One thing or the other leads her to this man, who is also trying to make a comeback. An opportunity meets preparedness. So the man takes this beautiful, young, innocent, naive girl from the village on. Now this man is struggling. His own self, his own habit, his own weakness tortures him every day. He watches this girl, you know.
He wants to grab her.
Yes.
Right.
So to cut the long story short, she has a daughter, a dancer, fantastic dancer.
That's this man.
Yes, this man, a London trained fashion designer who wants to make music, but she can't write songs. Two things happen. The daughter steals these poor girl's songs, and this man sleeps, rapes this girl.
Again?
Yes. Now, his own case now is worse than death. This man's case is damnation. This man's case, I'll tell you this story. You know why I'm telling you this story? Somebody is trying to, somebody wants to buy this story. We have negotiated, we are talking, you know, we've gone very far. So something is happening, he's beginning to tell me stories. So, if you see somewhere, you know that, you get this story, please let me know. Yeah. Because this story is not just out of the blues. It is, yeah. I have lived with it for almost 30 years. So I will tell it. Now,
Project 100 is buying the story, please. We have the right. We have the right of first refusal. We have the right of first.
You know the kind of money we are talking about here?
We have it. He's challenging us. He's challenging us. He's challenging us.
So, now I was talking about damnation. This man was dead. Professionally and emotionally, he was dead. He was just trying to make a comeback. In fact, he lives what they call he panics, panic attack. He lives a panic attack because of the fear that he's going to die without being sung. He had his days, no doubt, but he's still strong. He's in his 50s. His brought up are doing well, but they have. So now God brings him another opportunity. But he falls again, that weakness again.
The floor came back.
Yeah. And because it is the daughter that has stolen this girl's son, he is torn between backing the daughter. He likes this girl, loves this girl, but it is this weakness that he has not been able to handle. So when he raped this girl and this girl cannot help and goes public with it, you know, many people come out, take him to court. He did it that to me, he did that to me, he did that to me, like what happened in the US. So his fate is what we call worse than death. It would have been better he died.
Than living.
Yes. It's damnation. It slides all the way down to damnation. Because he has refused to make the floor.
To let go.
My brothers and sisters, forget about stories. In our real life, it happens in many of our lives. Stories teach us how to live our
Lives.
Not so much. It's a musical. It's part musical, part drama, so it's very entertaining. But I did not follow the entertainment. I did not tell you, everybody are happy. I followed the line of the story that connects with you, touches something in you. That is story. They call it the emotional core. Some people call it the third rail. The emotional core of the story is what you should chase, what you should pursue. Fine, they give you a script as an actor. Look for the emotional core. Look for the moment that you see them and say, okay, what is this character about? Who is this character? Which brings me to something I did not mention in the story, the theme. What is this story
About.
I asked.
Yes.
Now, what do you call the
What is the thing?
What is the story about?
Now,
All I see a man that wants to knock.
fine. Now, do you know what all of you did? You were all trying to tell me the storyline. But that is not what the story is. Coming to America. What's coming to America? Oh, this young man, a friend who came to America and did that. Oh, that's not what the story is. That is the storyline. That's the storyline. The story, what the story is about, is called theme. The controlling consciousness. It is the moral lesson, the moral premise of the story is what the story is really about.
Like crime does not pay.
Yes. Coming to America, not a lot of our words, I've seen that. It's like, oh, that's why I mentioned it.
Yes.
You know, it's about freedom of choice, freedom to live and choose your life without being influenced by parental or whatever influence. That's what the story is about. It's not about a young man who went to America
To find a bride.
What? That one is the story that demonstrates, that illustrates
The freedom.
Yes.
The theme of freedom.
Yes, the theme. Okay. I see by if you tell you say, okay, God is more powerful than the devil.
Yes.
That's the thing. Now show me that God is more powerful than the devil in drama. You cast somebody who is playing the devil. You cast somebody who is playing God. You give somebody an affliction, or Satan afflicts a person, and the man of God comes to heal the person. But I did not ask you, show me how God heals somebody. And all I asked you was, show me how God is more powerful than the devil. So what you are doing here is illustration. So the theme is God is more powerful, or the force of good will always trump the force of evil. But are not all the stories in the world about the clash of the force of good and bad? Yes. They may take different nuances, justice and injustice, you know, and all of that. It's all about the clash of the negative and the positive. And the negative and the positive are not fighting because they are fighting. They are clashing so that we will find our direction. Story is deep.
Please, can you repeat that again? Story is not story. You said something just now, so that we can find direction. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, I said when positive and negative clash.
Yes.
It's not because positive is fighting negative or positive is good and negative is bad.
Right.
It is clash of the forces so that we learn, we find our direction. My case says we go to the cinema, not to run away from our case in life, but to use it as a vehicle to find our way in life.
Sir, please, I want to chip in something.
Okay.
I've been watching films.
So do I.
They are on screen and whatnot. But the few times I went to cinema, the film or the illustration, I would say, went deeper into me than when I watch it on TV or my phone. Why is it like that?
The environment.
Environment.
The environment. Watch it. In your environment, I'm just thinking psychologically.
Okay.
You know really about this. At your home, you are aware. You are aware of people around you. You are aware of your family, of other kids. You know. In the cinema, you are alone.
Hello. Sorry, sir. My daughter. Hello, Shady.
Okay, so we talk about thing.
Hello, do you know you are not?
Thing is what the story is really about. Thing is what the story is really about.
Thing.
Thing is what the story is really about. It is what the writer wants to say. It is what the writer wants to say. Sometimes it doesn't mean that the writer is perfect, is correct, is right. You know, it could be biased, it could be prejudiced, depending on what he wants to say. You know, but he wants you to agree with him. Yes. So he will select scenes, pictures, things that would argue this case for him. A writer, a storyteller is like a lawyer, you know, who goes to court and says, this man is innocent. Even when we all saw that the man stole the goods, the lawyer says he's innocent. So he will avoid all those things that would show that the man is innocent. He will actually point us in the direction of things that will prove that this man is. Then the other lawyer will come and say this man is guilty. He will avoid all the things that this man pointed at. And that is what the writer does. But what the writer is careful to do is that, though at the end of the day he will, you know, acquit this man, the writer is very careful not to be seen to be partial. He will present the other person's argument very strongly. What I do as a writer is that when I am presenting the antagonist case or viewpoint, I enter into the antagonist. I become the antagonist. I hate the protagonist at that moment. I look for everything that will make me biased against the protagonist. So I become the antagonist. I become the antagonist more than when I'm writing that way. So that it will balance. I will make a very strong argument and people will enjoy. But if you are taking sides with one and it becomes obvious, before you finish the story, in Act 1, everybody don't know the end. Which used to be very rampant in our Nollywood stories back in those 6 years. That was the tilted argument we used to have. The protagonist is not always right. That's why he has flaws, weaknesses, to humanize him. And he should not be stronger, like I said, he should not be stronger than the antagonist. No. In fact, if possible, make the early in the play, make the antagonist stronger. Until the protagonist begins, and until the protagonist begins to learn his lessons. You know, and avoid his pitfalls. So, we were talking about theme. Okay, you asked a question why you follow a story better in the cinema house than at home. I am just wondering, could it be psychological? There are no distractions in the cinema house. Once the lights go out, you feel alone. You concentrate. You become oblivious of people around you. You know, your concentration is on the pictures. And the pictures are bigger anyway.
Yeah, the pictures are bigger.
Yeah, sound.
Because what you're trying to say now is that I live alone. Okay. You understand? And my environment is very quiet. You don't get. It's not less like me staying in a compound like this.
But it's your home. It is your home. You are very conscious of the fact that this is your house. If you hear crying, you want to see. In the cinema house, if you hear crying, it's not your business. It's security man.
Yes.
Security man.
Okay.
You understand?
Environment.
Yeah,
Concentration, your
the environment.
Your environment is your house.
Apart from that.
Apart from, you can be popcorn too. It's part of it.
Apart from that, the fact is that no matter what, the size of the screen in your house can never be the same as the one in the
environment.
I will accept this one.
And the size of
I told you
the
that pictures are bigger.
No, because it's as if
is more immersive.
It's like one-on-one.
Yeah.
The cinema screen is more immersive.
Good.
Because it is so large, you almost feel like you are part of it. It's as if you are standing on the street in the movie and seeing what is happening.
That's why I said the pictures are bigger. Pictures are bigger.
Because
Okay.
I watched Apple Stand in my house. Fine, not just very. But when I got to the cinema, bad though, I went. There was a place I cried.
Okay.
And that's why me actress.
Let's get back on this so we can wrap up.
Okay.
Now, before I continue with this, something I failed to mention when I talked about want. Something very important. The want of a protagonist must be something people can see, touch, if possible. It must be a visual thing. The want of a protagonist must not just be happiness. He wants to be happy. Okay. If you want to be happy, there has to be something we know. We will see at the end that will represent, symbolize that happiness, that joy. Is it marriage? Is it a child? The birth of a child? Is it what will make him happy? So early on in the play, because from Act 1, if not from Scene 1, or somewhere in Act 1, the protagonist must state his want, what he wants, and we all know. And if it is something like joy, and rest of mind and peace of mind, he must name what will give him that joy or peace of mind or rest of mind. So that there has to come a point in the story we know that, okay, he has achieved his goal. Because if he doesn't symbolize that abstract thing, you will never tell, you can never tell that he has attained his goal. You know that I have a happy marriage. Fine, except anyway, I'm not even wearing a ring. So you could imagine, but if you see me with a ring, or I tell you, or there's something that everybody knows symbolizes it. So there has to be something that symbolizes an abstract want, if the want is abstract. If that man is a footballer, and says, the day my team wins this cup, the World Cup or something, will be the height of my career. Sorry.
I don't be asleep.
Now,
I don't enter my video.
We all know.
I don't sleep, but I'm doing video.
We all know what we are watching out for. So we can now worry with him. When he doesn't win, when they drop out, when they knock them out, when they score against them, we worry.
We know his goal.
So the day his team beats an opponent in a final, and they carry that, even if he's not the captain of the team, but he has said that the day his team. So when we see him come up to the captain, as the captain holds the cup, the trophy, and we see him walk up, we know these moments
has come.
Yes, and he will touch it and whatever, or kiss it. We will feel, we will know. Because we knew from the beginning what was his goal. So you must always have something to represent. If it's not something, if it's something like a house, to build a house, that is the goal, okay, fine. But if it's something abstract, if it's love, okay, we know when the person gets the lover. Or whatever thing. If it's the love of God, let us see something that represents. I will know God loves me when God gives me a child. Or I have only female children. The day God gives me a male child is the day that God will demonstrate. So whatever it is that is abstract, the goal must have a symbol, a physical symbol. Is that clear? Now, do you know why those movies that you love so much, you wrote for, you say, they should win an award? Because there are all those big cars, all those big stars, why they don't win an award? Do you not know what the judges look for sometimes? May not be those cars.
Cars that
Do you
George,
understand what I mean?
Yes.
George does not
Sometimes when I
even
watch
know.
a movie with my wife, this wonderful, this, that, and I won't be excited. I know you. I know you. Nothing where people go do this movie. You understand? What I am looking out for is different from
What she's looking out for.
They'll tell you, that's why I don't like watching movies.
With you.
Let
Let us enjoy it.
But now, she talks differently. So, I hear people say, or people know that because they don't give us a award. Yeah, they have their biases, prejudices. But watch these movies again. Now, watch when you go back with all this information, watch them again. Do they tick these boxes? They don't have to tick all the boxes.
Of course.
But do they tick half of the boxes? I used to be part of AMA I used to be a judge in the panel, screen committee. First 4 editions or so I was part of. Then they banned me from coming. What was the reason? We evaluated the movie. Screen review and saw the movie. Emeka Enyocha, was that his name? There's a guy who they used to call Emeka Enyocha. Was playing alongside KOK in the system movie. He was KOK's younger brother. KOK, because he's a star, was supposed to be the protagonist. Emeka Enyocha was his brother, the opponent. So the writer, whether knowingly or unknowingly, gave all the qualities of a protagonist to Emeka Enyocha. And KOK's role was only reacting.
It's not leading the story.
Yes, it was Emeka Enyocha who was taking the fight to the brother, who was doing all the acting, who was doing all the, fulfilling all the functions and responses and roles of the protagonist. You know, and KOK, it continued like that until at the end of the day, KOK went to the mother, who summoned the family member, who called a meeting, and they warned Emeka Enyocha to lay off the elder brother. And at the end of the day, we used to have this from you write who is the protagonist in that story, who is the antagonist, and I wrote Emeka Enyocha as the protagonist. Everybody else in that committee wrote KOK as
the protagonist.
And Emeka was the protagonist. Very big names in this industry. I'm talking about AMA Awards. Now, I stopped out like a sultan, right? So they started explaining, everybody was given a chance to talk about the movie. Then I was given a chance, I explained to them that look, yes, there are stories in this world that the villain lead. It's a villain, no, but it's the lead actor.
Yes.
Or it's the negative force, it's the negative character.
That's a lead, yes.
So I said to them, maybe it's one of those stories, but as far as I'm concerned, this man is passive. He's just reacting. All the way into Act 2, all the way to Act 3 until the family intervened. What kind of lead
character is that?
Did they ask you who you now consider
yes,
to be the
I told
antagonist?
them. Yes, I told them. And I told them the reason. I enumerated all the reasons, everything. They were silent, they were quiet. But the chairman of there was a same gentleman called Killer. He used to be the manager at that place at Stadium. What do you used to call it? This popular place at Stadium.
Stadium Hotel?
National Stadium.
National Stadium. OJ's.
OJ's. He used to manage OJ's early days. Killer. His name was Killer. He was the only person who was convinced at the end of the day. I think the others probably felt too proud to admit because yes, because the point I made were very silent, and I made references. I referred them to so many other sources. After that, they never invited me again. The chairman of that committee went. The chairman of that committee went on to become a PhD holder, a doctor. Hussein, you all know him. Now, about 2 years ago at a script writers conference that they invited him to talk, the same Hussein got up and enumerated those things that I enumerated at that conference, and they threw me out or they banished me as the qualities of a protagonist.
Imagine.
Now the lectures are doing that. So what I'm saying to you is that a lot of them do not know these things. Some of them probably were taught in school and they forgot. But there is a new generation of writers who know. New generation of writers I have met. One young woman, fantastic young woman, who writes stuff on Netflix at all. There are younger generations who are picking up these things. That's why I said, and there were no situations like this for us. I have told you how I came in contact with this information. After the university, I was doing my youth service. That's how I was delivered.
From the world of meandering.
Yeah, from mediocrity.
And your eyes were open to the world of screenplay writing.
So when I relocated from Kano to Lagos, I managed a few musicians, the Mandators, Charlie Boy. So one day, I said, let me go back home. I walked into NTA. And I went to see Peter. They asked me to see Peter. I went to see Peter. And he asked me, what do you do? I said, I'm a writer. So he gave me, there was a program called At Your Service.
At Your Service?
Yes. He said, please, rewrite this thing. You said, you write this for me, rewrite this thing for me. This writer doesn't know what to do. He showed me a corner. He was meeting me for the very first time, one-on-one. I just wanted a job to beg him for a job. So he walked away. He was not testing me. He meant it's like that. He meant, yeah. He just walked away. You know, and went to for a meeting. So I said, God, I read through, collected paper from the typist of those days, in which after typist, you know. I started rewriting. I was sweating. So he did not come back till after work. They were still somewhere having a meeting of the directors. So I had to wait. So he came back after work. What the secretary was saying. I said, oh, sorry, gentleman. I forgot all about you. So what did you say you want? I said, you asked me to write. I said, okay, read it to me. You know, he's one of the persons I respect as a guru as far as the screen. Because he was exposed to, they trained at BBC, they sent them to train everybody. That generation of, go back to NTA programs of those days, compare them with our movies of today. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. Some of them who did not even go to the university, who had the opportunity to train, to go to courses, knew what they were doing. Zebejiro had that benefit. It was a conference like this that the attended BBC organized. That's how he came into know what to do. Not so much. So when I read the first 4 or 5 pages, he said, you want a job? He said, as a producer, we are not going to hire you as a producer, you're a writer. Start work on Monday. We will formalize other things. Then, they were processing my papers
as we are writing.
After I had started work. You know. So what am I saying to you? What am I saying to you? He's going to know certain things. Then some people will not like you. But someday, when the opportunity comes, I say to people in my village meeting, go to school, send your children to school. Forget about the fact that there are no jobs. First, if tomorrow Nigeria becomes a fantastic place, after we are gone, and you do not train your children, and they beat drums, people will come out for jobs. When your children come out without qualifications, they'll end up being messengers and cleaners. If I will not take up all those ones. So, something I'm saying to you, learn, know these things. There are places you will open your mouth and talk, and somebody will say, that guy knows what he's talking about. But before you get to that point, you might encounter 1,001 places and people who will not understand where you are coming from. They probably will laugh at you. I've been laughed at. That's why I told you what I just told you about my experience. Now, we're talking about theme, quickly. Theme could be about joy, happiness, or love. That is theme. But joy, happiness is very broad. Love could go any which way. It could be love of God, love of your child, love of world. So what love? You have to narrow it down so that we know what to look out for.
And kind of.
Yes. You can say something like, love lives because of sacrifice. Or true love leads to peace of mind. Now, you see, you have narrowed it down. Or true love leads to something. You have narrowed, now begin to know what to look out for. You can say, to love is to sacrifice. You know, okay, fine. Let's see whether this woman is going to sacrifice her job for this marriage. But if you just say love, that's a thing. If you say true love takes sacrifice, that is a premise.
Come again?
Okay.
Prince Babu.
That is a premise.
A premise, okay. Premise.
A moral premise.
Okay.
There are two kinds of premise. You have heard of log line. I don't want you to even go there. That one is premise, to be the standard premise. And what I'm talking about is, what I want to talk about is called a moral premise. What stories are about.
Okay.
Stories are about moral premise. The other ones that you should set and illustrate is called premise. That's where I was coming. That illustration, that external illustration, where Satan clashes with God, you know, over a sick person is called a premise. The premise of the story. What is the premise of the story? Okay, it's about this devil who afflicts a person, and then a man of God. That's the premise of the story. It is not what the story is about. The story is about the moral premise. That humility or that you stoop to conquer. You stoop to conquer with the premise, which is humility, right? So that's what the story is about. When you see a young man now become very humble, even when his stepmother maltreats him and all of that, he refuses to fight back. And at the end of the day, he succeeds in life and even comes back to look after his stepmother. You know, and everybody honors him. That is the premise. But it illustrates how you stoop to conquer. When I was a child, one of the early stories I knew was how a very rich man who had slaves and children and all that died. When the man died, he said that he had not, all his children had died. So he was left with the man's wives. And the man said the slaves would choose only one thing, just one thing. And everybody was angry. After this man had served the man so much, and all his riches, he said any one thing this man would choose, nobody should say no to it. So the gentleman, the day came for him to choose, to make his choice, and he went to one old man and said, can you imagine all those estates, all these things? So who will now own all these things? Sir, the wife. So what do you want? Just go and take one. The guy said he's confused. And the old man said, you don't know what to choose. I will tell you what to choose. So he whispers to this young man. And the day came. And they asked the gentleman to choose one thing. All the man listed. And the young man chose the wife. And he got everything. So what is that all about? The young man wanted to storm out, wanted to get angry and abandon and said he didn't want anything. If the man could only give him just one thing, but this old man told him, no, I'll tell you what to choose, if you will listen to me. Now, does it illustrate the wisdom of elders? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So the words of our elders, wisdom. That is a story that illustrates that. But the story is not about that young man, that slave. The story is about the words of our elders. That is the moral premise. The other one, outside story, that is the story praying. You will see a lot in books and newspapers. You see the premise of the story. But some of the journalists don't even know the difference. I've seen it a lot. I read the newspaper. And I'm sure tomorrow you are going to read one like that. They don't know the difference between premise. So, if somebody asks you, what is the story 1001 or 100, 100 is doing, don't begin to narrate the story. But you know the problem you're going to have. The person will expect you to narrate the story.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you know who you are dealing with. When I see a novice who doesn't know the difference between the two, what is the story about? I will tell her the story.
Tell her the story.
When I see a professional who asks me, what's your story about? I will tell the person the moral premise. But you know what? When it's in Nollywood, the person will not just get it. Many of them don't get it. Many. They don't even still get it. So, they ask you waiting, which is story waiting.
There is this program I attended with my daughter. Actually, we paid for the program, and top Nollywood actors, really good actors with respect, they are there. Most of them will be from better cities. So they were selling their books and all that. I said, my daughter, I don't want to buy it. All these things they are selling, you already know about it. She said, no, mommy, buy it because of me now. I want to be learning. I said, okay, so we bought one, 3,000 naira. I said, let me just tell you. The first 3 pages, I was already at the side. I told her I don't want to buy it. She said, what happened? I said, look at this. Is this thing correct? She said, mommy, it's true, it's not correct. I said, oh, that's why I said I don't want to buy. Most of them actually they don't even study theater arts or anything.
You don't have to study theater arts.
They just
you have to take
interest
interest and research and read.
Because they are attending trainings and all that, they become a bit okay and they are acting things. So they feel they can write books and just sell. So most of their ways we don't even so I have session.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe after.
Okay. All right, so do we still have time to go into the structure of screenplays? Like, come on. Do we still have time to go into structure, or we call it a day?
Is it the last you want to talk?
No. There is, I wanted to break down an overview of the screenplay. We've not even touched that.
Papa Sam, okay, when you are done.
Sorry.
Okay, so but meanwhile, there's a lot to know about the theme. When you decide on your theme, you take, because a story again is the clash of beliefs and